The Trinka podcast, academic writing done right. Hi, my name is Dr. KK, and this is the Trinka podcast where we discuss everything related to language technology, academic publishing, and a whole lot more. And I'm very excited today. I have with me Mary Miskin, the Global Operations Director of Charlesworth. Hi Mary, how are you doing?
Hi KK, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today.
Very excited to have a conversation about AI in academic publishing. So looking forward to. So let me start with the first question. So Mary, can you tell me something about your background so that the audience gets to know you better?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Mary Miskin. I'm the Global Operations Director at Charlesworth. Prior to that, I was working at Publishing, which is published based in the UK, where I was the head of editorial operations.
Mm-hmm. So I've been doing some research. I have to do research on you. So you've got a impressive 15 plus years in the. So can you tell me what led you into this field and some more detail about your work with Emerald and Charles?
Yeah, sure. So I ended up in this field really just by chance. I know a lot of my colleagues, particularly within editorial roles and publishing, they tended to come from an English literature background and had a real passion, particularly for literature, and therefore pursued a career in publishing. But for myself, it had not been a passion to become involved in publishing, but I saw a job after I graduated from university at Emerald as a assistant publisher, and it just looked like quite an interesting and varied role. There were a lot of different aspects to it, covering elements of editorial workflows, marketing, stakeholder engagement. So yeah, I applied and was successful to that role, and started at Emerald at the age of 25, I think it was at the time. And the company was rapidly expanding from the point where I joined, so there was a lot of opportunity to go and develop whilst with that business. So I did some sideways moves, working on different products. I started working on journals and moved to an assistant commissioning editor role, working on books. And then I kind of just progressed through various publishing and editorial roles, working as a development editor, then as a publisher, responsible for our mental health and healthcare journals. And then there was a company restructure where the publishing division was split into editorial operations and commissioning, at which point I was able to focus specifically into editorial operations, working as an editorial manager. And that's where I really started to enjoy the work of focusing on workflows and efficiencies and moving content through the pipeline from submission all the way to publication. And then after 20 years with children, I was able to take on the role of head of editorial for Emerald, which was a great opportunity for me to develop a senior leadership role, take responsibility for the full department and the operations of content and submission for publication. But by then I had been at Emerald for I think up to 13 years, and I felt it was time that really I got to expose myself to other publishers or well-known industries, at which point the operations director role at Charlesworth came up, so I applied to that. And was really pleased to be successful, to become my associate staff role, and have the opportunity to transfer to an aligned industry, taking on board the skills I already had learned, and the opportunity to learn new skills in a slightly different environment.
Okay, so change is always for the better. Changes as we probably learn a lot. So because Charlesworth is relatively new in terms of our audience not knowing about Charlesworth and what the group does, could you explain briefly what Charlesworth does?
Yeah, so Charlesworth as a company actually has over 100-year history, and it used to be involved more directly in typesetting and publishing, and it's since evolved to focus on author services, so language editing and author support for things like publication, marketing and content. We've also developed a specific focus on the China market, so that's where we have an awful lot of our customers using our editing services, but we've also developed a consultancy service to international publishers wanting to understand the China market and grow their presence within China, and then also Chinese publishers wanting to understand how they can grow their presence internationally.
Right. I've heard so much about publishers, and we've all been reading about what's happening in the world. Things have changed since the AI revolution is already here. So I'm expecting publishers to have different needs. They have different pain points now. So could you let us know what were the pain points before the AI revolution, and what are the pain points now from the publishing mind? Yeah.
I mean, speaking specifically from an editorial operations point of view, the pain points are, some of them are very similar and still remain, and they're the sort of pain points that I was used to having to tackle in my previous roles, so things around reviewer engagement, finding suitable reviewers, time from submission to publication, making sure authors have a good experience within that whole end-to-end workflow. But then the new pain points, again, still existed. There were always problems around research integrity and the potential for fraudulent papers, fraudulent reviewers. But with the rise and availability of AI technologies, it is much easier to create fraudulent content and to create that en masse and submit en masse, and it is much harder to detect potential fraudulent research and fraudulent
Right. I mean, technology, when we are broadly using that brush, so we mean artificial intelligence, I suppose, right? That is what is, I believe that's a double-edged sword. It helps, let's say, publishers and even researchers and authors to do their job well, but also creates problems. So my question to you would be, Mary, what does Mary consider as the ways in which artificial intelligence could influence the academic publishing space, maybe with a focus on publishers? You can talk about both positives and negatives.
And I would say that artificial intelligence in its different guises is not new in terms of publishers harnessing it to improve their content, their workflow, and their output. So, semantic enrichment is AI in a way, and that's not new. Publishers have been using that to develop content for years. And AI has been used to identify and find appropriate reviewers. But what has changed now is, I think, the speed and availability of the technology. So people with a good understanding, visual understanding, can utilise AI themselves in their daily work and not have to rely necessarily on complex technical tools to solve some tech problems.
Right. And when you mention people who can, with somewhat understanding AI, are you referring to researchers and authors, or are you referring to people who work, let's say, at the editorial desk or peer reviewers?
I would say any stakeholder in the process with a willingness to learn can utilise AI tools to improve their efficiency.
Right. So, Mary, we've been talking about the potential influence of artificial intelligence and technology in improving workflows. So I'm going to sort of ask you a pointed question. What do you see the positives and the negatives of AI in, let's say, editorial desk processes and maybe peer review process? You can start to get into the test.
If I think about how AI can be used throughout the process, obviously at the start there's authors submitting their journals to their manuscripts to journals, and now the number of publishers we're working with are introducing AI-powered checks for authors to utilise to check that their manuscript will fit those very specific journal requirements. So we know that a lot of journals will have in-depth requirements for authors ahead of submission, and authors can find it daunting and confusing to understand all of these potentially many embedded requirements. So AI-powered manuscript checks will flag to an author if they have failed to adhere to any specific requirements for the journal in question, and provide a report to that author so that they can quickly understand what's missing and act those to ensure that they would not be rejected at the point of submission. And then similar tools would be used by the editorial office desk review to check things like business manuscript and scope. Previously, a human expert would have had to very carefully skim through a manuscript, understand the scope of the manuscript, and decide whether or not it's in scope. Now, we can very quickly assess the full content of that manuscript, see a summarisation of what it is about, and know whether or not it's in scope for that journal. If it isn't, suggest relevant journals within the publisher's portfolio that would be in scope for, which would enable more efficient manuscript cascades. And then there's things like language quality. It's also assessed now by AI tools. It's quick and easy to see a number of different elements within language, like inform an author if they need to address any aspects of language that they're not really sure. Then once a paper is entered the peer review process, the objective of finding and securing appropriate reviewers is aided by AI technology to really find the best fit reviewer. It used to just be based pretty much on keyword search, but now you can understand a researcher's research history and background to get a more rounded match of reviewer against manuscript. We're also looking, there's debates, I would say, within the industry around the extent to which AI can support the process of performing a peer review. Do we want AI to generate content for a peer review? It can do that. Some people are concerned about hallucinations, etc. Can we trust the content that AI could produce to review? But we know that it can quickly summarise elements of a paper and interrogate that paper to give advice and guidance to a reviewer to help them support that expert human review and save that reviewer's time and help. And then at post acceptance workflows, again, things around language and copy editing, increasingly our publishers are categorising the quality of manuscripts and the quality of language of the manuscript after acceptance using AI, and then triaging those papers to varying edit levels and potentially using AI language edits for papers that are already of very high quality, and then triaging poorer quality papers for human edit.
So I think among the points that you've said, I think about 90-95% are positive in the sense that as we've always seen, technology and innovation has always helped us, humans, to do things better, faster, less effort. Maybe they can do things, more things with their time, including creative stuff. That's the way I look at it. I'm a very techno-forward kind of person. However, you mentioned some of the concerns as well. So, in my research, I've seen a lot of publishers, and maybe the entire science and technology publishing community, academia, having concerns regarding So you mentioned hallucinations,
Yeah.
right? Science is built on, I would say, integrity and the fact that there's robustness to everything. So I'm going to ask Mary, what do you foresee as some of the challenges in terms of integrating some of the solutions that you talked about from the point of view of integrity itself?
I think a lot of the use cases I've talked about, there are concerns for integrity. Where the concerns arise is where it's perceived that AI is being used to generate original content and thought.
Right.
Because AI cannot generate original content and thought. That is the human knowledge and expertise.
Right.
So there's concerns for publishers in terms of the content submitted to them and the extent to which AI could have been used to create that content or edit that content.
Right.
And there's generally an acceptance that, okay, you could use AI to edit the content, but no, Gen AI should not be used to generate the content. But could it be used to help finesse a draft of ideas? Potentially, yes. And I think this is where publishers are kind of grappling to define and agree on what is appropriate use of Gen AI from a researcher perspective.
Right.
Whereas they generally do have agreement on, as a publisher, what use cases are we comfortable using Gen AI for.
So, you mentioned the lack of original thought.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask you this. I'm very, techno forward, and I think we briefly touched on the fact that the reviewers are doing pro bono work. They are not paid for their peer reviews, and peer review is one of the main pillars on which science is built, and the entire academia is built. So if I were to argue that peer reviews can be improved in purely from the point of view of peer reviewers getting more time to do what only humans can do, and the AI can be a tool, AI-related technology can be tools to help peer reviewers do things faster, more efficiently, maybe better in terms of quality. Would you say yes to that? And yes, if yes, why? If no, why?
If used in the right way, they can definitely increase efficiency and help reviewers to conduct and complete review.
Right.
I think the concern remains with publishers of if a reviewer has used Gen AI, have they also added their own thought and humanness to that content. And that's where I feel that if you provide services to reviewers which you know are trusted, in particular there's concerns from publishers that if reviewers are putting manuscript content through ChatGPT to help them with a review, then they're exposing that original research to a public LLM and there's confidentiality concerns. So I feel that publishers should be providing secure tools to reviewers to try and overcome the potential for reviewers to want to use insecure environments to help support them in that review role.
And if I were to ask you, what is security in this context? Because I'm thinking regulation, or I don't want to say surveillance because that's got a negative connotation. And what is a secure environment in this context?
A closed LLM where the data is not being used for training or could be regurgitated in future quality content for other users of that.
Right. So we are touching on the intellectual property aspects, the copyright aspects, because no content is technically anybody's, especially after once you submitted a manuscript.
But an author would not be comfortable knowing that their original research has been shared with ChatGPT, Gemini, etc.
Right.
Because what if your original research is in effect stolen by the AI?
Right. I mean, that's a way forward. Every it's free artificial intelligence tool will have the problem of what is the data being used for, right? Is the data being stored on somebody else's servers? Is the data being used for training? All those concerns exist. And from my personal point of view, I would want dedicated systems built for maybe editorial desk review, maybe peer reviews. Let's give people technology as assistants and let's get them to do their jobs well. That's the way I look at it. And now we are obviously in the Trinka podcast this episode. So Trinka is an AI tool, and Trinka is some of the aspects that we just touched on, including data security, a tool that is dedicated to serve the academic community. That's what Trinka is. So I'm sure that you've used Trinka, and I'm going to ask you how your experience has been so far, and maybe how have publishers used Trinka, or how can Trinka potentially help publishers and others?
So publishers are using the Trinka technology for the aspects I've already talked about in terms of the editorial desk review and checklists.
Right.
So understanding, analysing, categorising manuscripts to create efficiencies in making decisions on what to do with that manuscript or improving the quality of the language for that manuscript. And increasingly we're working with publishers to evolve Trinka to also provide tools that will help overcome some of the concerns publishers have around the use of AI in manuscripts. So, for example, AI generated content check is a new feature that's going to be released soon. Things such as citation, reference checking, checking those citations against cross-ref, against retraction watch to ensure there's no retracted references, and then looking at researcher identity and considering how to grow researchers who they are.
Right. So that sounds like a lot of healthy innovation to help the academic community move forward to make sure that research integrity is up. So this was a lot of conversation about heavy topics, I guess. So let's move on to some lighter questions. I'm going to ask you some short questions. Answer as much in detail as you would like to for the audience to get to know Mary. So what would Mary's dream cruise destination be?
I've never been to South America, so I don't know if they do cruises around South America. But yeah, I'd like to go to South America.
Any specific country or?
Argentina, I would love to go to. Before I had kids, I went to Argentinian tango classes. So,
okay. Sounds great. I mean, I've never been to South America. That's one of my dream destinations as well. So a little bit of trivia, insider information. Mary is a triathlon athlete. So Mary, among the three legs of the triathlon, if I'm not making a mistake, what is the most enjoyable part between the three?
Yeah, I mean, I am an accident. In the same way I am an accidental publisher, I am an accidental triathlete.
There is no accident.
I don't particularly enjoy sport and active physical activity. I've always enjoyed swimming, and I've always continued swimming since being a child. I detest running, never liked running. I've had to force myself to improve my running because I chose to do triathlons. And then bike riding, again, I really only took that up when I put myself forward to do a triathlon last year. And I think bike riding has been the biggest revelation to me in terms of how enjoyable it can be. Because you're out in the countryside, you can go long distances quite quickly and just really enjoy that time in nature.
So bike ride is one of
Yeah.
the choices.
Yeah.
We have at least one common in this hobby. Talk about hobbies. Is there a hobby that nobody knows that you have? Or is it weird?
Probably not anymore, because I'm so busy with work, kids, the triathlon stuff, so I do a lot of running, swimming, cycling every week. And after that, there's not really an awful lot of time for much more.
Right. Coffee or Diet Coke?
So yeah, you know that I do not drink coffee, so I supplement that with a lot of Diet Coke, which my dentist is telling me that I need to stop doing.
Nice. Okay, so you are in Bombay, and this is probably your third or fourth trip. Right. So you have enough experience being in Bombay. So you're from the UK, Bradford. What would you bring from Bradford to Bombay? The one thing that you bring for trips that you miss when you got to Bombay?
So I bring with me my hot chocolate powder. Cadbury's highlights hot chocolate. Because I don't drink coffee and I don't drink tea.
I see.
In the morning I like some hot chocolate.
And the reverse questions. What is the one thing about Bombay that you'd like to take back to Bradford?
I guess the quality of the curries here, or maybe black paneer, if I chose a specific one. So Bradford has, within the UK, Bradford is known as being kind of a capital for curry. And we do have a lot of restaurants where you can get curry, but it's probably a slightly anglicised version of the true curry available.
Right.
Black paneer in particular is much better.
Any Michelin star Indian restaurants in Bradford that you're aware of?
There was one, I don't know if it still has a Michelin star, it was a veg restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know that you love biryani, right? So if you would have to pick between biryani and fish and chips, what would you pick?
Proper fish and chips.
And why?
I guess that's what I'm more used to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing all these insights. So we are at the end of the episode. So Mary, if some of the audience, somebody who's listening or watching would like to know more about Mary Miskin, how can they find out? Where can they find more information about what you do, what you're passionate about?
So from a work perspective, I have a LinkedIn. I'm fairly easy to find. There's not many Mary Miskins in the world, so yeah, very on LinkedIn.
Right. Is there the last question? Is there anything that you are passionate about? Any project, passion project that you're working on? Anything that you want to share with the audience that you would like the rest of the world to see?
I guess at the moment the key projects I'm working on are the things related to developing the Trinka AI to meet publisher needs. So there's one specific project with a client where we're developing specific features to undertake more in-depth checks of content for manuscripts. So it's a provider who receives lots of submissions that aren't put through peer review but do need to go through a human review ahead of publication to ensure that what is in that manuscript is legitimate ahead of publication. So that's the moment of interest in mine.
Do you know a quick timeline? When can we expect to see this published? So somebody's listening, and you know when?
We're planning to complete this project by the end of the year.
Good publishers with a lot to forward to, I suppose. So Mary, once again, thank you very much for being part of the Trinka podcast. I had a lot of fun. I hope we had a lot of fun talking about things, and I really hope to have you for another conversation. Maybe we can talk about something else that you're passionate about.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you, Kevin, for inviting me.
So that was a wonderful conversation that I had for the Trinka podcast. I enjoyed a lot talking with Mary Miskin, the Global Operations Director of Charlesworth. So I hope you learned something out of it. The Trinka podcast has been doing this for, I guess, over a year or so. We have 22 episodes, and you can find us on trinka.ai. You just search for trinka.ai or type in the address bar and you'll find us there. There is a podcast section. And if you want to watch it elsewhere, you can find us on YouTube and also on Apple Podcasts as of now. And if suppose you want to learn more about Trinka, the app, just search for Trinka and follow us on all the social media platforms, right from Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and TikTok, and for our China audience or the people from China on Weibo and WeChat. So, as I mentioned earlier, the Trinka podcast covers everything related to academic technology, language, all sorts of language, academic publishing, and interviews with experts in the field of AI. And we aim to publish one fresh episode every other Thursday in the afternoon India time. So, it was fun for me. I hope to catch you in the next episode of the Trinka podcast. Academic writing done right. Bye-bye.